Some things I love are cooking, kittens, and walking in the mountains.
Oh, I've never eaten kitten, but I always like to try new things. I'm not sure I could eat a whole one though.
No, Horace, you've misunderstood. There's a comma in there, so that's 3 things, not 2. Cooking, kittens, and walking in the mountains.
Oh, okay. I'll eat something else then.
Yeah. Another thing I love is when subscribers like you ask really good questions in the comments, like this. Kindly make a video on the usage of punctuation, specifically how the comma should be used in sentences. Now, this is a great question. Their overarching function is to help distinguish between different elements within a sentence, marking pauses and indicating relationships between words, phrases and clauses. By strategically placing commas, writers ensure that their intended meaning is conveyed accurately, preventing misunderstandings and enhancing the overall readability of their text. In essence, commas act as the traffic signals of written language, guiding readers through the grammar and making the written word come alive with nuance and coherence. But it can be confusing. In fact, I bet most people off the top of their heads can't say exactly how we use commas, because there are actually several different ways that they're used. Probably the most common use, or at least the easiest to define, is to separate items in a list or series, like we saw at the beginning of the video. For example, we bought apples, peaches and bananas today. I'm thinking about my next holiday. I can't decide between skiing in Italy, snorkeling in Egypt, or skydiving in Australia. See how the commas are used to separate the items in the list? The list can be individual words, like in the first sentence, or clauses, like in the second sentence. It's also interesting to note the use of the word and or before the last item, to kind of conclude the list. There's a comma before that, but that comma is optional. There's a lot of debate about whether we should use it, and grammarians will argue about it for eternity. But when we do use a comma before the word and, this is known as the Oxford comma. Personally, I do use the Oxford comma, not just because I live near Oxford, but I just think it makes sense. The next use of the comma is to separate independent clauses. A clause is basically a complete idea that has a verb and a subject. A simple sentence may have just one clause, but sentences can have more than one, and when there is more than one, we separate them with a comma. For example, he walked down the street. If you want to say what happens next, you can add another clause. And then he turned the corner. We have 2 clauses in one sentence, connected by a coordinating conjunction. Now that's a word like and, but, yet, so, or for. So we use commas to separate the independent clauses. Here's a few more examples. I wanted to have lunch, but my mum rang me and wouldn't stop talking. It's raining heavily, so we should take an umbrella with us. You can either choose the blue shirt or you can go for the red one. She neither spoke a word nor did she make eye contact during the meeting. He faced many challenges in his career, but he never gave up on his dreams. Similarly to separating independent clauses, we use commas when we want to separate an introductory clause. Sometimes when you have a sentence with more than one clause, the first one is there to set the scene or give context to the other clauses. Have a look at this example. When Evan was ready to get up, his cat jumped on the bed. Here, the main event is the second clause, about the cat jumping on the bed. Commas also play a crucial role in distinguishing between defining and non-defining clauses in a sentence. These are sometimes referred to as restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. These two types of clauses serve different purposes and require different comma usage. Defining clauses are essential to the meaning of a sentence. They provide the necessary information to identify or specify what you're talking about. Defining clauses do not use commas because removing the clause would alter the core meaning of the sentence. For example, the book that you recommended is fantastic. In this sentence, that you recommended is a defining clause that specifies which book we're talking about. If we remove it, the sentence becomes, the book is fantastic, and we don't know what book you're talking about. Non-defining clauses provide additional non-essential information about a noun. These clauses do use commas to set them off from the main sentence because they can be removed without altering the fundamental meaning of the sentence. For example, my sister, who's an excellent chef, prepared dinner. In this sentence, who is an excellent chef is a non-defining relative clause that adds extra information about the sister. But it doesn't change the fact that your sister prepared dinner. If you remove the clause, the core meaning remains intact. My sister prepared dinner. Here's a simple rule to remember. If the clause is essential for identifying or specifying the noun it modifies, it's a defining clause and it doesn't have commas. If the clause adds extra information but isn't necessary for identifying the noun, then it's non-defining and it does use commas. Proper comma usage in defining and non-defining relative clauses helps to ensure clarity and convey the intended meaning in writing. When you're talking directly to a specific person in a sentence, you can use a comma to get their attention. For example, I think Alex, you're wrong. Hopefully the comma here will get Alex's attention and let him know that you're talking to him. When someone's speaking in your sentence, you can show that it's a quote with commas around their speech. Mary said, I dislike concerts because the music is too loud. And finally, use commas with dates, addresses, titles and numbers. For example, I was born on December the 12th, 1980. We write addresses like this. YouTube, comma, 901 Cherry Avenue, comma, San Bruno, comma, California, 94066, comma, USA. And we use commas to split up numbers to make them easier to read. I have 202,589 subscribers, and you should join them and subscribe to the channel now. So, remember, when you're writing an email or an essay or even a text message, commas are really helpful to make your text easier to understand. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this useful. If you want to improve your English, then join the English Language Club today and unlock a world of opportunities. Get exclusive content updates, access to our app and vibrant Discord community, and many other benefits. Click the link in the description or the card in the corner to join the English Language Club now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.